So there is something that lives on my phone that has contributed to my laziness and my bank account going down, and it is Amazon Prime. I don't know if you feel the same way, but ever since that appeared, it's so easy at the click of a button for me to buy whatever I want to and do my Christmas shopping, and just everything is so easy with Amazon Prime. I was reading a quote not too long ago from Jeff Bezos, who's the founder of Amazon, and he makes this statement. He says, "Work hard, have fun, and make history." I love that quote. Regardless of what you think about Jeff Bezos as a leader, I don't know that much about him as a leader. What I know is that he's had a lot of success, and I know that that quote is pretty strong. I specifically love the very middle phrase, have fun. Whatever you're doing, whether you're working hard, making history, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you're having fun. You're a leader, and as a leader, you work hard, and as a leader in Jesus' name, you're making history. What we want to make sure you do as a leader is have fun along the way. So welcome back to the Lifepoint Leadership Podcast. As you know, a part of our church and one of the things we're founded on is that we give God and we give our guests our very best. And that is exactly what this podcast is designed to do, because you are a leader at Lifepoint and your best is just on the other side of your decision to grow in your leadership. So today, we're going to grow in our leadership by talking about one of the core values of Lifepoint Church, and that is fun. We have fun at Lifepoint. In fact, we say that we take fun seriously. We don't take ourselves very serious sometimes, but we take fun very seriously. And because of that, it shapes sort of the atmosphere of what Lifepoint Church is. When my family and I first started attending church 25 plus years ago, we started attending a Pentecostal church. And if you've never been in a Pentecostal church, they're pretty excited. And so singing was excited, everything was exciting. And I remember we went to a new members class probably 3 months into being at that church. And everybody in the room had to stand up and share their experience, how they came to the church. Now, if you're an introvert, that is a nightmare scenario. Well, my dad was an introvert. And so my dad, who was typically a pretty quiet guy, but he was a guy that liked to have fun, he stood up when it was his turn. And the only thing that he said in front of this group of people was, he said, "The first time I came here, I was sitting in service and I felt like I was at a pep rally and I was the only person that didn't know the words to the cheer." Essentially, he was saying, this place is fun and I wanted to be a part of it. Fun is contagious. Our mission is serious, but the way that we execute our mission at Lifepoint Church is with a smile. We don't have to, we get to. And it's that subtle difference that makes a monumental impact. People want to be around people who love what they do and who are passionate about what they do and who have fun doing it. It's why fun is a core value. Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 10 says, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." Joy and fun brings strength. It brings confidence to people. When we serve each week, each Sunday, and people are walking through the doors of Lifepoint Church, we don't know what they're coming from in the week that they just had. We don't know if it was a week of sorrow, a week of struggle, or a week of success and mountaintops. But what we know is we're going to provide consistency in the fact that we're going to have fun, we're going to bring joy, because joy brings strength to people. So, how do we do that? How do you do that not only at Lifepoint, but how do you do that in the organization that you work in? Maybe at your job, or if you're a CEO of some sort, or maybe you're the CEO of your family. How do you bring fun into the equation? Well, I got a few things that are sort of practical that I want to give you that you can pay attention to and begin to see your leadership through, and it'll help you live out our value of fun. Here's the first one, is recognize that atmosphere matters. Atmosphere matters. Every planet has an atmosphere. Some atmospheres, they're conducive to life. Others are inhospitable to life. And just like every plant has an atmosphere, churches, organizations, families have atmospheres. When we preach sermons at Lifepoint, Pastor Jeff does a brilliant job of this. But one of the things that we work hard on is we work hard to infuse fun, specifically humor, into our messages. Sometimes you'll see that through a prop that we'll use to make a point. Sometimes it's through a story of not a success that we had, but maybe a failure that we went through. But we work hard to bring humor and fun, because I've heard this said years ago that people can't laugh with their arms folded. So when people are sitting in our congregation each week at every campus and they hear humor, it opens them up to the truth of God's word. And that's something that we're always working towards because we want to build atmospheres where fun is present, where people are open. And atmospheres are built by leaders, and every leader has a personal atmosphere. So this is for you. This is an area where you can grow. Is that as a leader around you in your orbit, you have an atmosphere as well. You may not have realized it, but guess what? The people around you, they do. They notice your atmosphere. And people notice instinctively if this atmosphere is life-giving or if this atmosphere is inhospitable. And it's up to you, it's up to me as a leader to determine what that's going to be. Is it going to be something that's created toxicity or it brings life? Atmosphere matters. So leader, what kind of atmosphere are you creating on your team? And what kind of atmosphere are you creating in your orbit? Here's the second thought. Second thought is that if we want to be a person of fun, bring that value, we do that by choosing joy even under pressure. We choose joy even under pressure. Anything that we do, we're going to have pressure that comes with it. Any experience we create, if it's a weekend and we're creating something awesome in our lobby and it works, there's going to be pressure. In our kids' ministry, there's going to be pressure. Pressure is a reality of leadership. And it's this internal pressure oftentimes that will drive things on the outside to get really tense and really like seize up, and it chokes the fun out of what we're trying to do. Back in December of last year, we were in a season where the church was growing, and honestly, we didn't talk about this much, but we had more people showing up than we really had seats for. We had way more people showing up than we had parking places for. And at a few of our campuses, it was getting kind of tough and tense. And it was in a season where we're building up to our Christmas Eve experiences. And there was just a lot going on. The weather was terrible during all that too. It rained for like 3 weeks in a row, it felt like. So we were trying to figure out how do we infuse fun into a weekend. So here's what we did, is we had this inflatable character that's a gingerbread man. We just thought that was fun. So we recruited some college students, and actually I was the driver. I was the designated driver for that Sunday. I drove those college students, there were 4 of them. One of them put on the gingerbread man costume, and we would walk into every campus. We hit every campus on the same day. And one of them would have a tray of little gingerbread men, and we would give them away to everybody who was there. And then the other one had a backpack with hot chocolate in it, and we would fill up hot chocolate and give it away to everybody that was there. And then another one had I would call it a jam box in the 80s. It was basically like this speaker. And we would just walk in, and we were loud and disruptive, and they were playing Mariah Carey's Christmas music all over the place. And the gingerbread man, we called him Gingy, he was dancing everywhere. It was awesome. And everywhere that we went, just that presence lifted the room. Fun lifts the room. Fun lifts people. And pressure wants to bring people down. Pressure wants to bring rooms down. Hey, pressure wants to bring you down. So one of the things that's a self-discipline as a leader is we have to have this thing in us that says, hey, the joy of the Lord is ultimately our strength. And we know pressure's a reality, so we have to infuse fun into what we do. If we're not careful, we'll just continue to live where the pressure is squeezing out joy. But a key to understanding about leading through pressure and leading with joy is we have to have that get-to mindset rather than a have-to mindset. Everything that we get to do, we get to impact people's lives and eternities for the good. Are there some things we have to do along the way? Sure. That's life. That's leadership. But at the end of the day, we get to do the things that we get to do. And maybe for you, you have to, when you pull on the parking lot at your campus, you have to do what I have to do sometimes, is I have to put my A game on. I have to decide I'm going to have joy today. I'm going to bring some fun today. The Bible says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. It begins with us, because a key importance of choosing joy under pressure is that we've got to make sure it begins with us, because as leaders, whatever is in us spills out of us, and it spills onto our teams, and it spills into the areas that we're trying to create greatness for God to move in. So we got to make sure that we're bringing joy to what we do. Here's the third thing, is if we're going to bring fun, bring life, bring joy, bring energy, then we do that by expressing gratitude and encouragement. Express gratitude and encouragement. Think about it for a second. The leaders that you want to follow, if you think back about who they are and the way they're wired, they have this thing most likely where they find good and they build on the good. When you find good and you build on it, momentum is gained and people want to be a part of that. So one of the best leaders that I'll go down saying that she's one of the greatest leaders of all time, her name is Dolly Parton. I think she's amazing. And Dolly has this quote that if you see someone without a smile, give them yours. If you see someone without a smile, give them yours. Bring gratitude and bring encouragement to people. What I find to be true is that the thing that we focus on, we find, and the things that we focus on, we either grow those or we keep them from growing. Gratitude allows you to focus on the right things. It allows you to keep good perspective and say, hey, even though there's a lot of things that may not be working the way I want it to, I'm going to choose to be grateful. I'm grateful for these people who showed up. Hey, we had 5 people on our team cancel this morning, but guess what? 3 of them showed up. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give those 3 my very best, and we're going to treat those 3 like they're an army, and we're going to go make a difference. We're going to be gracious for what God has given us. There's an old saying that you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. There's a lot of truth in that statement. And every church has its faults. Every organization has its faults. Every person has faults. What we do is in the middle of that, we choose to be grateful for what we have. And it elevates joy. It elevates fun. This past year, we had one of our overseers come in and speak. His name is Pastor Randy Bazette. And he and his wife pastor an amazing church down in Florida. And you guys who were here will remember them being here. And they were awesome all weekend. I was very privileged to hang out with he and his wife at a couple of meals and just to spend some time with them. And as great as they were on Sunday, when you experienced them, hey, they were equally as wonderful behind the scenes. But at the very end of their time with us, after the final service on Sunday, we were at our broadcast campus and they were back in our green room. And it was just Pastor Randy and his wife. And I was back there talking to them, just making sure they had everything. And my youngest daughter, Sydney, came in. Sydney at the time was 17 years old. She was a senior in high school. And as soon as she walked in, both Pastor Randy and his wife, their demeanor shifted. And it shifted practically away from me. They quit talking to me immediately. And they started talking to Sydney. Both of their faces lit up. And what they started doing with my 17-year-old senior in high school is they started asking her questions about her life. John Maxwell has a statement that sometimes you need to put a 10 on people's heads. You need to make them feel like they are the only 10, the most important person in the room. And I watched them do that with her. And they asked question after question about her future plans and what she was passionate about and where she served at the church. And they just encouraged and spoke life into my daughter. I talked to Sydney not too long ago and I asked her about something with the church. And she said, you know what one of the highlights of the year was for me? It was when those people from Florida came and preached. She couldn't remember their name. She couldn't remember everything about them. But she said, they were awesome. And what meant so much to her was their encouragement. Was the sermon good that day? It was great. Did they add value to our church? Of course they did. What she remembered was that they deposited courage inside of her, and she'll never forget it. You have the opportunity to do the exact same thing. Be gracious for what we have and encourage people. It's fun when you do it. And when their faces light up and when they get better because of your encouragement, there is nothing more life-giving. There is nothing more fun. When you step onto your campus on the weekends, I want you to see yourself as the CEO of your campus. And here's what I mean. Not the chief executive officer. You are the chief encouragement officer. Walk around and see yourself that way. Every interaction that you have, speak life into those people. One of the ways I do it is I'll pull my phone out, and when I see somebody doing something great, I'll gather people around them and take a selfie with them and post it online and just speak to that person. I'll use my platform to encourage those people. Do the same. Hey, it may not be a picture, but you may write something down in your phone and later on write a handwritten card or send a text and specifically say what it was that you caught them doing. That was amazing. Encourage people and have a spirit of gratitude. It'll elevate fun in your leadership. And then here's the final thing, is bring laughter and a light heart to everything you do. Bring laughter and a light heart to everything that you do. Now listen, this is not about being a class clown. It's not about being immature or just being a jokester all the time. That actually robs from your leadership impact. But it is about being a leader who can free their team up by bringing joy. And you might say, well, I'm not naturally that way. I'm not always either. But as a leader, one of your jobs is to elevate the atmosphere by bringing joy, even if it's not the thing that I'm the most naturally gifted at. We've got to understand that if we want to eliminate tension and bring levity, it's going to start when we just walk into a room and nobody feels like they're walking on eggshells because we're there, because we're just the chief encouragement officer. Joe Montana, who arguably is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, he possessed this almost mythical calmness in the midst of chaos. One of the most famous stories about him, and he was the comeback king. He led so many fourth quarter comebacks, even on the biggest stages in Super Bowls. But one of the most famous ones was in 1989. It was a Super Bowl against the Cincinnati Bengals. And if you're a Cincinnati fan, I'm so sorry. This is going to be a trigger, a bad memory for you. But it was against them, and in the fourth quarter, they were down by 3 points. There's a little over 3 minutes left to play in the game. And it was tense, and tension was mounting. And Joe Montana, in a huddle, called all of his guys together. And he looked up in the crowd. All this is going on, largest stage ever. He looks up in the crowd and he goes, "Is that John Candy?" John Candy was a famous actor from the 80s. And he had all of his linemen and receivers and running backs and everybody who was on the field who was feeling that tension all started looking up in the stands trying to find John Candy. And sure enough, it was John Candy. And they all waved at him and he waved back. And then Joe Montana looked back at him and said, "All right, guys, let's go win this game." And he ended up leading them on a 92-yard drive and throwing a touchdown with 34 seconds left in the game. Joe Montana understood the power of relieving pressure in the room by bringing fun, bringing levity, bringing joy. The joy of the Lord is our strength. The joy of the Lord gives us the ability to lead beyond ourselves and to elevate our teams beyond where they think they could go. So the question for us is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's our fun quotient? How fun are we making things? So I'm going to give you a few questions. You can take these and wrestle with them. Here's the first question. Do I consistently choose joy under pressure? On a scale of 1 to 10, grade yourself. Second question is, do I consistently express gratitude and encouragement? Scale of 1 to 10, grade yourself. Here's the third question. Do I consistently bring laughter and lightheartedness to the mix? Scale of 1 to 10, grade yourself. And here's a great exercise is grade yourself and then send those 3 questions to 3 other people and ask them to grade you as well. Hey, you'll get some honest answers, all right? And the goal is not to make you feel bad, but the goal is to encourage you to become an encourager for other people. Hey, God has greatness in store for you. He has kingdom impact ahead for you. And it will be like gasoline on the fire of that impact when you embrace the value of Lifepoint Church to make it fun. Let's make it fun and let's take fun seriously. Thanks so much for being here. I hope it's added value, not only to your leadership at church, but also maybe to your workplace or to your family or just to your life. If you think it would be helpful for somebody else that leads alongside you who may or may not even know Jesus, it may be worth a share to them just to say, I heard this today and it made me think of you, because I believe God's going to use you in more ways than you can ask or you can think. So thanks again for being here. We can't wait to see you on the next episode of the Lifepoint Leadership Podcast.